Hello, how are you? How are you? How are you? So, I am going to preface this video by saying a few things. Number one, I am talking about this topic because I saw a comment or a status on someone's page and I related to it. Like, I honestly just related to it. And it's a topic that I feel needs to be discussed because I've been told the same thing. Number two, I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not any of those two things. Number three, the purpose of this video is not to diagnose, treat, or pass judgment on anyone else. Number four, I am simply a parent that experienced this on a daily basis. And number five, this is probably going to be the first time that I am discussing ADHD on video, on live video. Like, a lot of times I do talk about autism or the autism spectrum, but this is my first time discussing ADHD. And the reason why I am discussing it tonight, not to really shed light on, my children and to shed light on myself, but I do realize, especially in Black communities, some of you may act, well, no, everybody deals with this, but what I realize is that some of you are dealing, thank you so much, Ashani, some of us are actually dealing with this on a day-to-day basis, and others are in extreme denial and have shame, and they're letting their children suffer because they don't want to get the help, because they may feel that this is just not right, or that people are going to pass judgment on them and things of that nature. So I just wanted to give a few of those disclaimers. And just to let you know, I do have children. One does have ADHD and another is on the autism spectrum, okay? So I am talking as a mom that experiences on a daily basis. Now, professionally, as I've been in the field of social services for a long time, I've also had to deal with this on a professional level. So I have a little wide range of experience in dealing with these various issues on different levels, okay? So before I even really get into my main topic and the comment that really disgusted me today, I want to just give you a brief overview of both ADHD and the autism spectrum. For those of you that's been following me for a while, I have been telling my story, especially on the autism spectrum. People need more education about this. Old school attitudes and methods don't work when it comes to ADHD. Yes. Okay, so let me just give you an overview of the autism spectrum. The autism spectrum, ASD, is a developmental disorder that affects communication and behavior. Although autism can be diagnosed at any age, it is said to be a developmental disorder because symptoms generally appear in the first 2 years of life, okay? According to the DSM, some things that they do use to diagnose autism spectrum disorder is difficulty with communication and interaction with other people, restricted interests and repetitive behaviors, symptoms that hurt the person's ability to function properly in school, work, or other areas of life. A few signs of autism spectrum disorder. People with autism spectrum disorder have difficulty with social communication and interaction, restricted interests, and repetitive behaviors. The list below is going to give you a few examples of this behavior, okay? So in the area of social communication and interaction behaviors. It may include making little or inconsistent eye contact, tending not to look or listen to people, rarely sharing enjoyment of objects or activities by pointing, showing things to others, failing to or being slow to respond to someone, calling their name, or other verbal attempts to gain attention, having difficulties with the back and forth of conversation, often talking at length about a favorite subject without noticing that others are not interested or without giving others a chance to respond, having difficulties with the back and forth of conversation. I said that already. Having facial expressions, movements, and gestures that do not match what is being said, having an unusual tone of voice that may sound sing-song or flat and robot-like, having trouble understanding another person's point of view, or being unable to predict or understand other people's actions. Okay? And then restrictive or repetitive behaviors may include repeating certain behaviors or having unusual behaviors. For example, repeating words, phrases, or behavior. Having lasting intense interest in certain topics such as numbers, details, or facts. For my son, it's sharks. Having overly focused interests such as moving objects or parts of objects, getting upset by slight changes in routine, being more or less sensitive to other people or to sensory inputs such as light, noise, clothing, or temperature. Excuse me, you guys. And thank you so much for your comments, okay? Now, the treatments and therapies for ASD, autism spectrum disorder, should begin as soon as possible after diagnosis. Early treatment for ASD is important as proper care can reduce the individual's difficulties while helping them learn new skills and make the most of their strengths. The wide range of issues facing people with ASD means that there is no single best treatment for ASD. Working closely with the doctor or healthcare professional is an important part of finding the right treatment program. Then there may be medication, and then there is behavioral or psychological educational therapy. So people with ASD may be referred to doctors that specialize in providing behavioral, psychological, educational, or skill-building interventions, okay? And progress may include learn life skills necessary to live independently, reduce changing behaviors, increase or build upon strengths, learn social communication, and language skills. And I know that in the past, recently, there was an article that came out that I believe that Toni Braxton said that her son is no longer autistic. Now, a lot of people, and I meant to do a individualized video on it, but I just didn't at the time. But in my thoughts, based on what I'm saying now, she probably has, or not she probably, but she has the funds and the resources to pay for this specialized therapy that help to minimize the symptoms or the signs of autism. Yes, I believe that he still does have autism or is on the autism spectrum, but because of the therapies and the treatment, it minimized the signs and symptoms, okay? Now, I'm not going to get deep into discussing my son again, as I have done already a lot, but he's on the high end of the autism spectrum. It used to be called Asperger's. I have him in a District 75 school, which provide him the education that he needs, and it gives him the therapies that he needs, and he is progressing well. You know, very smart, very intelligent, very sociable. He's good. And, you know, if I tell you the story of before he was diagnosed, that would be a total different story. My son has made a tremendous turnaround, and he's doing good. Like I said, you know, it still doesn't diminish the fact that he has that diagnosis. But because I was willing and able and open to get the treatment or to get services, he's receiving the services, and he's doing phenomenal, you know, and I have no complaints, nothing. We're good, okay? Now, like I said, I'm not here as a doctor to treat, to diagnose, or to scare anyone. I'm just simply here to talk to you about facts. You know, if you feel that your child may fit in this. Oh, and we have Akili. She is a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist, either or. She's a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist. So she will have valuable feedback. Excuse me. Like I said, I'm just here as a parent that works and that deals with this every day, and that I've done some work professionally, but not in that capacity. Okay. So if you've heard some of the signs and symptoms and you feel that your child may fit in this category, contact your child's doctor, contact a psychologist, contact someone to help you get along through this, and do your own research, okay? Because you don't want to leave your child hanging. You don't want to set your child up for failure. And you just want to make sure everything's good, okay? So now, moving on to ADHD. Now, it's been so much negative light placed on ADHD, and it sickens me to my core. You have people out here saying the cruelest thing, ADHD is man-made, and all the kids need is a good ass whooping, and blah, 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 and it's sickening, okay? And I know every time, like I said, I haven't spoke about it much on social media, but in the times that I have spoke about it, they always bring up Dr. Umar Kabar, or whatever his name is, and other people that's saying that it's man-made and it's a doctor's attempt to just pump your kids up with medication and blah, 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 blah. Stop it, okay? Because these negative things that people are saying are making people not want to seek treatment for their child, okay? The stigma that you're placing on these things are making parents not want to get help for their child. And as a result, their child is suffering. Their child is not getting the help that they need. And eventually that child is going to grow up, and God only knows what's going to happen to that child. So stop saying these negative things about children on the autism spectrum or that has ADHD. So let me just get to ADHD really quick. What is ADHD? ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. It is a medical condition. A person with ADHD has differences in brain development and brain activity that affects attention, the ability to sit still, and self-control. ADHD can affect a child at school, home, or in friendships. What are the signs of ADHD? All kids struggle at times to pay attention, listen, and follow directions, sit still, or wait their turn. But kids with ADHD, the struggles are harder and happens more often. Sorry, you guys. Kids with ADHD, they may be inattentive. Kids who are inattentive, easily distracted, have trouble focusing their attention, concentrating, and staying on task. They may not listen well to directions, may miss important details, and may not finish what they start. They may daydream or dawdle too much. They may seem absent-minded or forgetful and lose track of their feelings. Hyperactive. Kids who are hyperactive are fidgety, restless, and easily bored. They may have trouble sitting still or stand quiet when needed. They may rush through things and make careless mistakes. They may climb, jump, or roughhouse when they shouldn't without meaning to. They may act in ways that disrupt others. And there's also an impulsive side. And I don't have the correct definition, so I'm not going to go and butcher, and sorry about the cough. I'm not going to butcher the impulsivity of ADHD at this time, but basically it's a problem with the hands, okay? And some of you may listen to some of these things that I just read off and say, but all kids are like this. Can I bring some water, please? Some of you may say, all kids act like this. But